with Chocolate Docs. We're so happy that you decided to tune in and watch. So as you can see, we have a special guest. Yes. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi guys, I'm Stephanie, otherwise known as Melanin Mentor on Twitter. Follow me
We'll put her Twitter right here. We're on the screen for y'all.
at Melanin Mentor, so make sure you're following me.
So before we get started, I have to ask, how are you guys doing today? Have you looked in the mirror and told yourself that you're beautiful, that you are worthy, that you can do this? If not, stop this video, go do that, and then come back and we can get started.
So today, I'm sure you guys can tell by the title of the video, we're going to do like a mukbang video, but like a med school edition. So we have some Cajun food, we got some gumbo, some shrimp po' boys. I'm probably just gonna grill during the video, but we have questions that you guys submitted to her Curious Cat. So yeah, we are just gonna dive in and like answer all your questions. So hopefully you guys enjoy the video.
Yes.
First question, how did you decide which medical schools to apply to?
So for Texas, there's one application for all of the medical schools in Texas. So it's kind of like, it's not the smartest thing not to apply to all the schools in Texas because you're paying one price for all the schools anyway, so you might as well just apply to all of them. You don't have to do all their secondaries, but you do apply to them like for primary applications. So I applied to all the Texas schools, and then I got the fee assistant program fee thing waiver for out-of-state schools. So with that, you get like 15 or 16 free applications. So I just Googled schools and like their representation of like minorities, like I just Googled different things about different schools. I applied to all the HBCU medical schools. So I guess it just depends on like where you want to be.
Yeah.
Cost.
Yeah.
Family. Like you just have to figure out what's the best choice for you. But there's what's the form called?
MSAR?
Yes.
So I did not apply to any Texas schools because I'm not a Texas resident. So I was looking for schools outside of Texas, and so I went to the MSAR and MSAR, and you can go on there and filter what locations you would live in. You can like take out schools that don't accept out-of-state students or accept people who like you can put in your GPA and find the schools that like fit in your GPA and MCAT score range and all that kind of stuff. And so like literally I had a list of 50 schools, and if they didn't take my GPA, I just crossed them off. Or they were like in Iowa or something, I crossed it off. So then at the end of the day, I had a list of 10 schools that I was confident in applying to.
That's very smart. Because you save money that way if you're actually paying for the application as well. Don't you have to pay for it?
Yeah, I think it was like $25 and you get like a 1-year subscription
but
to
it's
it.
very helpful.
It was so helpful. I definitely think people should invest in that.
We'll put a link to that in the description box too.
Another question. How many extracurriculars / what extracurriculars should I do in undergrad? I say it depends. Like, you should just do what you're interested in. Yeah, what you're passionate about. Like, I had like one extracurricular that actually had anything to do with medicine, and then all my other ones, like I was in like African Student Association, that has nothing to do with medicine. Like, and what else? I did like a pageant and stuff like that. Like that has absolutely nothing. Like that has nothing to do with medicine, but those were my extracurriculars, and like that actually stood out in my application. Like I was talking to the dean of my med school, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I remember. Like you're Miss Texas." She was wrong. I'm not Miss Texas, but like that stood out to her in my application, and so like just do whatever it is that you're passionate about. Like it's not like what extracurriculars you do. It's like, are you passionate about it? Can you talk about it in an interview? All right, dating in medical school. Dating in medical school is possible.
Yeah.
I have classmates who are married with kids.
Okay.
I have a classmate who is over 40. She has 11 kids.
Oh my God.
Yes. And
11?
Yes, and a husband. Like, that's another one. So
in medical school.
And she's in medical school. She's in my class. So, like, anything you put your mind to is possible. So, like, if you want to date, like, long distance relationships are possible. Short distance relationships are possible. Granted, It's possible!
It's possible if both of y'all are serious.
Yes. If
You
you're
have to be
serious, your partner has to be very understanding of what you do. Like, your partner has to, like, if your partner gets mad that you're studying for 12 hours in a day and you can't text them back because you're like in lab or whatever, you need to change your partner. Like, you just they have to be able to be understanding, because medical school is very time consuming and it's very difficult. So like, you need a partner who's gonna like support you in that. So that's what makes it hard to date in med school, is finding that partner who's gonna be understanding of that.
Find somebody who's busy too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they are all up under you. Like, they have they got a 9 to 5 that they doing, but you know they have other projects going on with them. Because if you got someone that's like always just waiting for you to come home, they're gonna be literally waiting for you, and you're not gonna really feel like you have time for them. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't. It's just like school for right now is kind of a priority. So I feel like people who are not that busy, they feel like they're like pushed to the side or pushed to the back burner, and that kind of like puts a strain on your relationship. So like find somebody who understands what they're giving. Like, this is a commitment for the rest of your life. So you're always talking about marriage now. You know what I'm saying? Like, medical, like me, it doesn't stop in medical school. Like, you're gonna be busy during residency. You're gonna be busy when you become a physician. Like, you're always
not
gonna be
gonna stop.
It's not.
You're also married to the MD.
Yeah.
So
Your books
no, for real. A polyamorous relationship.
Very true.
Also, like, I don't know about y'all's school, but a lot of my classmates like date each other. Yeah.
Well, we had some people dating each other in our class.
It was like, it seems like everybody in my class is dating somebody else in my class.
I'm good.
I'm good, love.
Enjoy.
Okay. I'm a freshman in college, starting at a community college first, then transferring to a 4-year next fall. I was wondering, what can I start doing right now to make sure I get into medical school? And do you have any tips for transfer students?
I would say make sure because I took classes at a community college and then they transferred over. So make sure that whatever 4-year university you're going to, that they can transfer over, so you're not retaking classes. That is like the main thing that I know a lot of transfer students miss out on. They start taking classes that their advisor told them to take, and then it doesn't transfer over.
Yeah.
So make sure your stuff transfer over so you don't have to waste money. You're a freshman, so go hard early. It will be so worth it. So like junior year, senior year, take all the upper division classes. Because your GPA is important. Like, that's the number that's actually very important. So now that you have the opportunity to start strong, do that. Don't slack.
How do you deal with doubt that you might be in the wrong career? I get this question a lot on my Twitter page, and what I tell everyone is, like, if you don't know you want to go into medicine, shadow more. Like, if you you should be shadowing all different types of doctors, doctors with different personalities who have different takes on the field of medicine. Shadow, if you can, shadow nurses or PTs and PAs. Like, feel around to see if you actually like it, and like ask good questions while you're shadowing, because that's how you're gonna figure out, like, could you see yourself in these shoes?
Yeah.
And I think for me, like, it solidified it for me when I was able to shadow a doctor, and I stayed with her the entire day. So when she started at like 8 a.m., I started with her. When she left at 5, I left with her. And then when she was on call, I also was with her. And so I was able to put myself in her shoes and say, oh, can I do this for the rest of my life? And so that helped me solidify my decision, so that I wasn't doubting whether or not I could do this job. Do you think I have the same chance of getting into medical school as someone from Harvard or Stanford?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Simple.
Period.
That was easy.
Yeah, you got this, y'all.
Yeah. What's the hardest part about becoming a doctor, in your opinion?
The time commitment, and the sacrifices that you have to make, because you can't go to all events, you can't go to all family functions. Like, you're busy, you have to study, you're gonna have real people's lives in your hands. So I feel like that is like the biggest thing for me, because I'm really close to like my friends and my family. Like, I always want to do everything that they have going on, all the events, but I'm like, I can't go to everything because I don't have the time. Like, I have to study.
I think the delayed gratification, like, you're gonna be in school for a minute, and it's like, and when you're in a moment, sometimes it goes by fast, and other times you're just like, bruh, it's still the same in the same week. Like, it's taking forever.
No. Seriously.
Like,
why is it only Wednesday?
No, honestly. But then eventually it's gonna fly. Like, we're gonna be 4th years eventually. We're gonna be like, bruh, like, med school by so fast. So, like, just knowing that your degree and, like, the prestige of all that comes later. And it comes after hard work and tears and, like, the times where you don't want to study and you're not motivated to do anything. Like, that's the hardest part for me.
How did you get a full ride to med school? I'm trying to be like you.
No, honestly.
We are. We all try to be like you, sis.
Okay, drop some gems for us,
So-
please. So this full ride, like, it wasn't something I applied to, and I think a lot of people don't realize that, like, when you're applying to med school, you're also applying for scholarship. Like, that same application you sent them, they're using it to evaluate you against the people that they're accepting into their school, and so a lot of times, like, schools don't advertise the scholarships that they give out, right? And so it was honestly by the grace of God, like, whatever I put in my personal statement, like, really resonated with the admissions people at my school, and so they were like, yes, we want her, and we know she's gonna make a change at this school, we know that she's gonna be resilient. So, like, I got a president's scholarship at my school, which was, like, full tuition. And I think, like, if you have, like, a really compelling story, like, tell it. And your personal statement really matters. I spent a year writing my personal statement. That's a little excessive, but, like, I spent a year writing it because I knew, like, it was gonna set me apart from, like, the other applicants. And so when I was given the scholarship, they referenced my personal statement and said, like, this, like, these things in your statement, like, really resonated with us, and so that's why we're giving you the scholarship. So just remember that, like, everything you put in your application is being looked at, and, like, make yourself shine. Like, don't, I mean, there's times to be modest, but when you're applying to med school, it's not the time to be modest. Like, gas yourself up, all up on your application, because it will help you out in the long run. I have a 3.0, but my lifelong dream is to be a doctor. How do I make myself a better candidate?
I'm probably gonna have to do a postbac.
Yeah, did it say, like, what year?
No, we don't know what year they are. So the average GPA of someone who matriculates into medical school is a 3.7. I think that you should just try and do all you can to make your undergrad GPA better. So, like, take the classes that you need to take, retake classes that you need to take, maybe look into a post-bac. Like, post-bac isn't a bad word. Like, a lot of people say, like, oh, I don't want to do a post-bac. Like, do a post-bac.
If you need to do it, do it.
Yes, you do. Like, you do not want to apply to med school with the 3.0 and be like, oh, because I didn't want to do a post-bac program. Oh, and then reassess why you got that 3.0 in the first place. Like, if you are just taking classes and you keep doing the same thing over and over again, like, isn't that the definition of insanity? Like doing the same thing and expecting different results. Like, you have to be like, okay, I didn't go into my professor's office enough, or I was not studying the right way or the right things, or you have to figure it out. Like, look inside yourself and figure out what you need to do to improve that GPA. Go to the tutoring center if you have one, or talk to upperclassmen who took that same class and did well in the class. Figure out what they did to do well. And don't blame your professors that your GPA is not great, because, like, there's people who are taking the same classes who are getting A's. So, like, you want to, like, figure out, like, what do I need to do to be like those people?
Like, start making excuses. I feel like at a certain point you start making excuses for yourself, and you need to, like, reevaluate. Am I really studying, or am I just on Instagram?
Right.
And, like, taking pictures of studying. Like, that's not studying.
Come on.
Right.
That's not studying.
Right. What's the best and worst part about medical school?
What's the worst part? It's just the learning curve. First year was a mess.
Struggle.
Like, I was having breakdowns, like, once a week. Like, it was like, my mom was getting tired of me calling her, like, okay, girl, like, when are you gonna work this out?
My mom was like, wow, what's wrong with her? Because I had it together. Like, I'm the type of person who, like, I try to have it together, like, the majority of the time. Right. And so when I'm calling my mom this much in tears, she's like, wow. Like, okay. Like, what they do is my baby out there. It was a struggle.
Yeah.
It is, like, really drinking out of a fire hose.
And a lot of people say that, and it's true.
It is very
like, it's
true.
actually true.
Right? You don't think, oh, everyone says that. Everyone is saying it for a reason.
It is. That first week of med school, you're gonna be like, oh, this is what they were talking about. Okay.
So yeah, that's probably the worst part, the learning curve.
Okay, best part.
The friends that you make in medical school. I feel like I'm happy because I know some people probably don't have a connection with their classmates. So I like to class my friends and my friends in my school.
Yeah, I would say like I can say that I've made some of my best friends in med school, like, and those are the people who are like in it with you, and so they understand. So like the community in med school is amazing. Like, well, I guess it depends on what med school you go to, but like my school, I like love all of my classmates, and I wouldn't trade them for the world.
I feel like when you're pre-med and you're just like going through the motions, you're just like, okay, yeah, I need to apply to medical school. Now that I'm in medical school, I need to be thinking about residency. But we don't enjoy like the time, the season that we're in right now. So just the fact that we are all Black women and we are in medical school and that we're going to be doctors, that is amazing. So I feel like that's like the best part, to know that my children will be able to have a mother who's a doctor, and they can have like, they can set their goals, and like they can know, okay, this is possible. Like, I can do this. Like my mom did it, so I can do it.
Are you able to talk about your those speeches you gave in your school?
Yeah, I
did a standing ovation. I was like, oh,
yeah, I can talk about it.
Okay.
My school in the past has not done the best job of teaching its students about discrimination and bias and prejudice. And so I'm the president of SNMA at my school, and then the president of White Coats for Black Lives at my school. We got together and we said, let's make a training course, an awareness course, and put it in the orientation for all first-year medical students, so that we can learn about what actually happens at our school. So what we did is we took 3 cases of discrimination that happened on our campus to our medical students. Like, one was a case of gender discrimination of a female student who is the only female student out of like the 5 medical students that were with her, and she got picked out of that group, and the facilitator was just being really inappropriate and making really sexist comments towards her, and so we like wrote a case about that. And then we had another case about like a transgender student at our school who was marginalized, and then we actually had a case of like police brutality of an African American male at our school by campus police. And so yes, it was like a really big deal. And the thing is, like, people will think like those things don't happen when you're in med school. Like, med school, you're not immune to the things that are happening in this country, right? So those things will happen on your campus, but is your campus prepared to support you when it happens? And so what we did is we wrote out those 3 cases, and then we had discussion questions, and we broke up the first year class into groups of 8, and we trained like student facilitators to facilitate discussions between those students, and they just discussed what issues were at fault or what issues were at play in those situations. And we got like really good reviews and feedback from our school. And so now it's going to be a part of our orientation from now on. Like every first year class is going to have to do that in order to matriculate into our school. So it like builds awareness of discrimination and prejudice. And so it like brings it to life. Like, I remember I was facilitating a group of students, and one white male student said, like, when I hear about police brutality, I think, oh, like it only happens in the South. But like this told me like it happens here on our campus. Like, we're not immune to it. And so it was nice for like the school to say like, hey, we're owning up to this, that this happens to our students here, and it only happens to some of our students here, right? Like, only our marginalized students have to go through this, and so we're going to try and bring awareness to it, and we're also going to support our students. So like we gave all of the students like a list of resources, like our diversity and inclusion office, the professionalism office, our office of equity, we have a diversity council and all those kind of things. So we were able to like give students resources for like, if this happens to you, you know who to go to, you know who to report it to, or even if you don't want to report it, you just want to vent, like you have people. And then we also talked about like what happens if it's your superior. Like when you're a 3rd year student and you're on clerkships and your attending says some out of line stuff, like what do? Like, you still have to be able to defend yourself. You don't have to like kiss butt the whole time and like take crap from people. So like it was really great to like empower students to be able to speak up when like a superior says something that's like sexist or racist. So I was really happy that my school like let us do that, and that they're gonna implement it for years to come.
So
Wow.
hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. You know, we hope that you got your questions answered.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming. Like we said, follow her on Twitter, Melanie Mentor. Okay, we're gonna have her name again
All of her
right there.
information.
Like, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Instagram, and our Twitter as well. All that information is gonna be in the description box. One more thing, make sure that you register to vote.
Yes.
Deadline October 9th. Go to vote.org/register to vote. That's also gonna be in the link below. I mean, in the description box below. So yeah, it's very important. Your voice matters. So yeah.
All right, guys.
We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.